Hey, what's up, you guys? My name is Lauren Wong, and you are listening to episode 86 of the Trauma Dump Podcast. Thank you so much for joining us. Here at the Trauma Dump Podcast, we seek to answer the question, what is mental health? How do I take care of my own, and how do I support others? And today, we are going to be joined by filmmaker Kelsey Taylor. Oh my goodness, she is a powerful voice in modern storytelling whose work explores the emotional terrain where pain meets resilience. Kelsey is the writer and director of the upcoming feature film To Kill a Wolf, and it actually is, I'm pretty sure, out now. You guys can go check it out. It's a haunting and heart-wrenching reimagining of the Little Red Riding Hood, set against the backdrop of the Oregon wilderness. Kelsey dives into complex themes of trauma, survival, and the long road to healing. With a background in both narrative and genre filmmaking, she brings an empathetic yet unflinching lens to the screen. Her work refuses to shy away from darkness in order to find the light, and I'm honored to welcome Kelsey onto the podcast. It is my dream, actually, to become a film director, so to be able to interview a film director making an amazing movie about resilience is just for full circle moment. Like, dreams do come true. I'm really, really excited. If To Kill a Wolf speaks to anything inside of you, whether you're a survivor or an advocate or simply someone who believes in the power of storytelling to heal, please know that you're not alone, okay? You can find links to resources in the show notes, and if you're able to go see this powerful film, it's in theaters on August 1st, so it's out now. So please go see it with maybe someone that you think will also like this movie. And remember, if you'd like to share on the show, please message us in our Discord in the podcast participants channel along with your unique experiences, and we will match you to the right episode. And just a quick disclaimer before we start, I am not a licensed health professional. This podcast only seeks to create community and further understanding of difficult topics that are so often overlooked and extremely misunderstood. If you or a loved one are in need of medical professional help, we have so many different resources in our descriptions. The topics discussed here are for a mature audience, so viewer discretion is always advised. And another quick note before we start the episode, my collection dropped on my website, Gracelets by Grace at myshopify.com, or it's like graceletsbygrace.myshopify.com. I have released over 100 different products that I made by hand on my website. I've had so many different people come up to me at vendor events, even you guys that listen to the podcast, and be like, okay, when are you gonna have a website? When are you gonna have a website so I can actually order because I live so far away, or yada, yada, yada. I have a website now. Please go check it out. The link will be in the description. I'm so excited about it. I have necklaces, earrings, bracelets, like the one on my wrist, bracelets, obviously. And I have chokers. Girl, I have so much on there. And I have glasses chains. I'm so excited about the glasses chains, crystal glasses chains. I make them. I'm just, I don't know. I'm so hyped. I'm flabbergasted. I'm stumbling over my own words because it took a long time. Almost all of July, I have been working on this website, and now it's here. I'm going to be releasing products on the website constantly. Whenever I make something new for the website, it's going to be on there. So please go check it out. Graceletsbygrace.myshopify.com. That is graceletsbygrace.myshopify.com. All right, let's get into this episode. Hi, Kelsey. Welcome to the podcast.
Hey, thanks for having me, Grace.
Thank you for coming on. I'm really excited about your movie that's coming out. Today, guys, I'm joined by the amazing filmmaker and director, Kelsey Taylor. I'm so hyped because you are what I've always wanted to be since I was an itty bitty Twinkie Pinky. I've always wanted to be a film director. I know it takes a really long time to become one. And you have gone to the Edinburgh Film Festival. I saw that in your bio. Can you tell me about that? Because I got into like University of Stirling and University of Edinburgh for film directing, and I never got to go because COVID. I want to know what the Edinburgh Film Festival was like for you.
Oh my gosh, well, what a tragedy. I'm so sorry. That sounds awesome. I hope you can circle back on that at some point. Edinburgh is just a magical city. I don't know if you've been before. I mean, yes, okay. You knew what you were signing up for. I had not. My first time in Scotland, period, and just uh, everyone kept saying Americans love Scotland. And I got there, I was like, yeah, I see why. It's very magical. The festival itself also took a hiatus during COVID. It got everyone, but when we came to do it in August of last year, it was kind of a new version of it. And they had this cool thing where they had a prize. Everyone was competing, 10 films for £50,000, which is a lot of money for an indie filmmaker. So it was a bit of a different kind of festival in that sense. I think there was a sense of competition between everyone because I mean, everyone wants the money. And I think most festivals, there's this camaraderie, like, hey, we all made films together, we're all here. And I think everyone was a little standoffish for that. So outside of that, like incredible programming, incredible city, had a blast. And by the end of it, all the filmmakers were like, hey, we're all here. And then on top of that, the Fringe Fest is going on at the same time, which is so cool. And honestly, I got to go back for that. We just did not have enough time to experience it all.
Yes, I have been to Edinburgh several times. The whiteness of me is Scottish. I have a Scottish flag over there.
Love.
Um, and I say the whiteness because I am mixed race. I'm black, white, and Asian, but my
Okay.
white's Scottish. And I have always wanted to go to the Fringe Festival. I've always wanted to go to the film festival. The only times I've been able to go to Scotland is in the fall because it is cheaper to go to Scotland in the fall. Um, and I'm just really excited for, the potential of interviewing a film director who's having a movie come out. By the time this airs, your movie will have been out for 2 days, which is really, really exciting. Before we even start this interview, I just want to have you introduce yourself to the class. Who are you? What do we need to know about you? Where are you located?
Yeah, I'm Kelsey. I'm a film director. Feels weird to say. There's still like that imposter syndrome that will exist forever, probably. I grew up, as you did, wanting to make films, and I was very like, single-minded about that, and was lucky enough to have a family who was just crazy enough to say, "Yeah, you could do that, I guess." So I left my small town in rural Eastern Washington, and I moved to Los Angeles. And I currently reside in Long Beach, which is the coolest part of Los Angeles and not really a part of Los Angeles. And I'm very much looking for that promised land and to get back to my roots and live somewhere a bit more wild.
Are you comfortable with discussing your personal experiences?
Yes, there will be a line at some point, but we can cross that line or not cross it when we get there.
Well, to make sure that I'm not crossing any of your boundaries and respecting your experiences, please feel free to interrupt me at any time. And we can also take a break if you ever feel uncomfortable. If you don't feel like answering a question, just let me know. I will skip it. I'm not going to get offended, okay? My
Okay.
priority is to make sure that you feel safe and comfortable at all times. So, To Kill a Wolf is a modern reimagining of Little Red Riding Hood, right? What inspired that?
Yes, and I wish there was a clean answer for this. It's been coming up a lot as we get ready to put the film out in the world. And it's not a total linear path because in screenwriting, it's all about layering. So you kind of start out with the seed of an idea and then layer upon layer upon layer. You're like, how did we end up here? Um, but being from the area that I'm from, spent a lot of time in nature, a lot of time just walking and thinking. And Little Red Riding Hood was something that would always come up as you're walking down a trail through the woods. And I kind of latched onto that idea of like, what would make someone stray from the path, like in a modern world, if we were to do a modern reimagining of Little Red Riding Hood? Because I love adaptations. My bookshelves are full of fairy tales, modern things, Wicked and Confessions of an Ugly Stepsister. So just in thinking about that, you start playing the what if game. Like, what if Little Red Riding Hood was the bad guy? Uh, and then the one that really stuck with me was, what if Little Red Riding Hood escaped the wolf and the woodsman was the bad guy? What if there was something worse than the wolf? That was the first draft of this script. Then 17 drafts later, we're in a very, very different place. But that was that germ that I kept digging into that led us to the version of the film we have today.
And the cool thing about filmmaking and storytelling in general is that all of those questions, those what ifs, can be true in a sense. There can be multiple bad guys, there can be layered characters, and the best stories do have multifaceted characters that, multiple people can resonate with in ways that they like and ways that they don't like. And I think it's amazing. If you guys haven't seen the trailer already, I'm going to link it in the description. Please check it out and support this movie once it's out. It's going to be out in Regal theaters. So if you have one near you, please go check out that movie. It's going to be amazing. Um, what I really appreciate about even watching the trailer, even like dissecting that little by little, there's a real ominous feeling throughout. And there's a real ominous feeling in me when your Little Red Riding Hood and the huntsman are alone in a room together, which I assume a lot of the scenes are, where he's alone with her. And I don't know if it's because of the foreboding music or even because, as someone who was raised as a woman, I was always taught don't ever be alone with a man that's A, not in your family, and B, that you don't know. And it seems like they go on a road trip together, and so there's a lot to uncover with this movie. What drew you to telling a story about trauma and redemption through these archetypes?
Yeah, I love hearing your reaction to the trailer. It's very interesting to see how it's perceived, sitting on the other side and being like, huh, that's how that comes across. Which are like all good things. Everything you're feeling, I'm like, okay, good. Good, 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 good. I think you'll be very surprised when you watch the film where it goes. And I do think the film is best seen blind. The less you know, the better, because there are some twists and turns along the way. Um, I didn't set out to make a film about trauma. I think that's another one of those layering things. I set out to tell a story of this woman saving herself. And in doing so, it has become a film about trauma and a very specific kind of trauma. Um, this great book I read talks about how we make art as a way of connecting with things outside of ourselves, not necessarily expressing who we are. And I definitely think this is one of those films where I'm trying to understand the incomprehensible. And I think as a filmmaker, those are the kind of things that I'm always drawn to, something that breaks my brain a little bit and says, but how? But how? And then I want to understand those characters. And I think in this film, you will get an understanding in different sides of almost all the characters. I never like to have villains that are super black and white, although this one gets pretty black and white by the end.
Speaking on like black and white thinking, for the listener who doesn't know what that saying means, what does it mean to think in black and white?
I think black and white means it's simple. And with fairy tales, at least the versions that we now know very well, it's generally pretty black and white. Little Red Riding Hood, probably haven't heard it in many, many years, but it's a mom tells her little girl, like, don't stray from the path, go straight to grandma's, and everything will be all right. Like that's what you're led to believe. And in the world we live in, it's not as simple as just walking down the path and not talking to strangers. Sometimes the people that you know well are the ones that you should be wary of. It's not necessarily the wolf that's going to be the person that leads you into trouble.
I think that's a very interesting thing to point out. I was a nanny to four boys for 7 years, and I homeschooled them for the last half of my nannyhood, and I love them very much, and they're still in my life, and I'm still in their lives. And something that one of the older boys asked me that really struck me is we were doing a reading comprehension little workbook. And he said, well, is every pirate a bad guy? And I said, no. And he's like, well, they steal from other people. So anyone that steals is a bad guy. And I said, well, why would they steal in the first place? And we got to ask these, questions. And I told him, I was like, a lot of truth lies in gray, not in black and white, because the merchants, their ships that are being robbed may feel like, oh my gosh, things are being taken away from me. But where did they get those products, those goods in the first place? Did they go rob a person that had less than them? Did they pay less for it than what its original value is? Like, there's a lot of different layers to it. Why is the pirate even stealing the stuff? Is he going back to where it's from and giving it back to the people? What are the levels of motivation for each character to do something? And I had them rewrite their little short story that they had of a pirate and a merchant. And it was so much fun to have them each rewrite it, because there's four boys. So it was, at the time, the oldest was 15 and the youngest was 6.
Wow.
And it was really interesting to hear their different takes, because the oldest, for whatever reason, made the most black and white story. But the
Mm,
youngest, he made the most colorful story. That the pirate's mom was sold off and he was on a journey to go find her, and it was beautiful. And something that I really like about modern retellings is they add a lot more nuance. And I think that's a lot more comprehensible as a reader or someone taking in the knowledge, for me to understand, the different facets of the character, their motivations, why they do what they do, and so that I can make a decision based on more information. And I think that's also why a lot of people nowadays, especially women, the true crime like society is on the rise. More and more people are ingesting true crime at a huge scale that it's kind of become an entity unto itself. It's no longer, just dramatized. Like, we don't really have to dramatize real life anymore. Like, real life is even crazier than drama. And the trailer itself kind of felt like a true crime. It felt like different layers to a true crime. I know you don't want to uncover so much within a trailer, but the dynamics between your two main characters, Danny and the woodsman, like, what do they represent to you?
yeah. It's interesting, the true crime vibes. Like, I hate to admit it, but I am one of those people. Like, I don't watch everything. I don't consume everything. I'm not like a total slut for true crime, but I consume a lot of it. And I constantly am questioning, why am I drawn to this? Why do I want to hear about these horrible stories? And like, I didn't grow up knowing anything. And I think maybe that's part of it, is that draw to like, I just don't understand. And I know people have all kinds of theories. Like, is it being prepared? Like, what is it? Something I'll keep exploring. But this film definitely has that true crime adjacent feel to it. For the two characters, I mean, all so there's really like there's 4 characters in the film, and I don't want to give too many spoilers to it, but uh, the woodsman is not who you think he's going to be based on the trailer. Like, the woodsman ends up being a pretty stand-up guy. And this film is about sexual abuse. And for me, I wanted to make sure that the characters, like, everyone is the hero of their own story. And I want to make sure that you can see that even our heroes are not black and white. You want our heroes to be the good guys, but like, they've done things they're not proud of. And I think it's important to show that. And I've tried to do it with all of the characters in the film, to show how there are the pros and cons of who they are, and people see only one side of that person and might think one thing, someone sees another side and thinks a different thing. So it's important to me to show nuance, especially in the true crime world. I'm always trying to understand victims. I'm always trying to understand the perpetrators too, because it's so often trauma in the past that has created people and turned them into this.
So I want to ask this question then. How do you approach depicting domestic violence with sensitivity?
Yeah, and something I'm really proud of is that we've partnered with a couple organizations, Enough Abuse and Sapria, who specifically focus on abuse. And when I set out, this was not supposed to be a film that was about abuse. It was an element of it, and we thought it would be healing for people to see it. But it has become something that is much more of an educational tool than I thought. And when we viewed some of the resources that Enough Abuse was using to educate parents and stuff, I was like, oh my gosh, we've just made more material for them to show parents, to show like what does grooming look like? What are those baby steps? Like what is the kind of language? What is the kind of manipulation that happens? Um, and now I've forgotten your question. I'm sorry. Where how did we
So,
get?
like with sensitivity
Ah,
towards like people who may get triggered in your audience watching something that maybe they lived through something very similar, how do you authentically show domestic violence, but also make sure to not re-traumatize your audience?
yes, I. So we didn't show anything. That was really important to me to not show anything graphic at all. There's nothing physical that you see in the film. There is no actual violence that you see in the film. Um, it plays either off screen, and we've kind of left it ambiguous in some ways because I think that allows people to fill in what they're comfortable filling in. And everyone's imagination is more powerful than what we could show. But it was really important to me to not make it, not sexualize it, first of all, because I feel like you see things all the time. You're like, I don't think we should be watching this or showing this in this way. So it's not a romantic, there's nothing sexual about it. Um, we really wanted to leave as much as we could off screen and to the audience's own imagination. And I will say, like, it is triggering for some people. Some people have said afterwards, but no one has regretted seeing it. I think that's the thing. Like, ultimately, there is a very healing message out of it, and I think it is done in an authentic way. We have the partners who have validated the authenticity of it. So I do think more than anything, it's a healing experience for people rather than a triggering experience. And especially when like the true wolf is revealed, if we want to call him that, you hear people in the audience scoff at the things that he says. And that makes me so happy because I think for people who have survived to hear other people validate, no, you're right in thinking that this person is just utter scum. I think that's important for people to see it in an audience like that. But we had our event last night so that people could see it in a non-triggering way. And I totally understand if people don't want to come see it with a large group of people.
That's a very interesting thing to point out because the recent movie with Blake Lively,
Mm.
forgetting what it's called, but
Blake
it's
Lively and Justin Baldoni. That's now I'm like,
yeah.
I know the name, but yeah, what is
What's that movie called? Why did it leave my brain? Blake Lively.
Tweener?
Because she's doing a lawsuit against Justin Baldoni. It Ends with Us is the movie. And it is about domestic violence. And they do show pretty explicit things that as someone who has survived domestic violence, sexual harassment, for that film to end in such a giant shitstorm, like both of them suing each other, filing complaints, hostile work environments, unprofessional, inappropriate behavior on set. Um, it's something that I think both of them had great intentions of making a film about, you know, these very difficult topics,
Yeah.
but both of them went at it in the worst way that I personally have really ever seen. And I know for a fact that it did the exact opposite of the intention and made a lot of women and men who have experienced domestic abuse in some form or another feel like they have to be quiet, feel like they have to, keep it to themselves, and also the red pill movement around not believing people who have the courage to speak up. that triggered a lot as well. I have um, a really good friend who is in the men's mental health space, and he's a men's mental health advocate and influencer, and his name is Johnny Cole. You guys can go follow him at Hey Brother Johnny. He's been on the podcast several times. And he really looked up to Justin Baldoni, and to hear these allegations and to kind of have the wool pulled over his eyes, like to see, oh my gosh, wait, hold up. This person who I have idolized for so long, who talks about breaking down unhealthy masculinity, is actively doing unhealthy masculinity and
Uh,
harming women and harming other people who have faced domestic violence. That really shook him to his core.
uh,
And I'm really appreciative that you're making a movie. Your intention wasn't for it to be about trauma or about domestic abuse, but it kind of, with working on it and making sure that you were worthy advocates and had these organizations back you up, did your research, did everything in your ability to make a film that was truthful but also mindful. I think is very encouraging as someone who wants to be a filmmaker in the future, and also for you as well. What an accomplishment, because it could have gone a totally different way.
yeah, and that would be horrible. I don't know if I'd be able to live with myself if it wasn't resonating with people. But it's also our message with this film is talk about talk about trauma, talk about abuse. I think ultimately that's the takeaway is because it's through other people that we're going to be able to heal. And really, we just want to amplify this idea that if you talk about it, you will feel better. And like in your own time, not everyone's ready to talk about it. But I think as a society, we need to talk about sexual abuse, especially in young people, because it is so hidden behind doors. It's icky. People just don't want to talk about it because it's so icky and no one wants to believe that it happens, especially within your own family. So it's a tough topic, but I love our partners. Yesterday, we got into a discussion of like, how can we prevent this? What can we do? And Jetta Bernier with Enough Abuse was saying we need to educate teachers. And I thought that was a really, really fair point. Like, how is this not a basic, like, here's the code of conduct? It's pretty simple. So it's interesting how we live in this very gray world, but then some things are very black and white. Don't hurt children.
And I am a vocal coach, and I have lots and lots of clients from all over the world, and that I teach over Zoom, and then I have people that come in person. And one of my clients is going through a very difficult time right now because their best friend, the client that I have is a actual teacher and a mandatory, reporter, and they witnessed some stuff about their best friend. And I could tell that like during our lesson that there was something heavy on their heart, and I was like, do you want to just take this lesson to just talk?
Yeah.
Because I'm used to that. I have a trauma dump podcast. This is my life, you know what I mean? And I was like, do you want to, because singing is very emotional, and um you're making mistakes on certain things that I know you never make mistakes on. I see something's heavy on you and you want to talk. And they were able to talk about how they had to call CPS on their friend because they're a mandatory reporter. And they feel very devastated about it in general because they feel so many levels of betrayal for their friend and also for those children, that they want to make sure those kids are okay. But the situation, I'm not going to talk about it, obviously, but the situation is so horrible that they felt like they had no other choice. And they really needed me to tell them, yeah, you made the right decision. And I had to also say, some days when I was younger, I really do wish that, the adults in my life spoke up against my mom, because I went to 14 different schools growing up. Every semester was a new school, a new environment, because my mother wanted to control me. And whenever she felt like she couldn't control, she would change my environment so that it was a new adjusting period every time. And when I was about 14, 15, I tried to commit suicide because I was sexually assaulted and I grew up in purity culture. And so I thought I was worthless. And my mom disowned me. I really wish that, there were adults in my life that could have done something, anything, if like they could have stepped in any sort of way. What happened to me probably wouldn't have happened in the first place. And second place, I wouldn't have been like straight up abandoned. I really do wish that more adults were vigilant to things that are happening to young people. I wish that that was, see something, say something. You see these videos on TikTok all the time where these are staged incidents, but like a man on the street will grab a kid and you'll look at the crowd and see who does something. A lot of times people don't do anything. And I think that is ridiculous. We live in a society of apathy because we're so surrounded by so much input of just stuff, especially with the rise of AI and fake things. Like we don't know what looks real, and so we'd rather not get involved. So I want to understand your process of how you use storytelling as a tool for advocacy and healing.
Yeah, it's crazy because I'm like, are you sure you haven't seen the film? Because everything you're saying, I'm like, yeah, all these things kind of exist there. Because we fully have an adult, and like a big another germ of this complicated. Why did you make this story? Was born out of like a like a scary story I heard as a young person. Um, I had asked my parents one day, I was like, why don't we really see that side of the family anymore? Like we haven't seen them in years. And they told me, well, one of my cousins had accused her stepfather of abusing her, and her mother didn't believe it and sided with the husband. And now we don't see that side of the family anymore. But that was one of those things that just broke my brain. I was like, how? How would you not believe your child if something like that happened? And yes, there are some of the crazy true crime cases where it's like the kid was lying the whole time, or that's a whole thing. But I wanted to understand that. And so we do in the film have an adult who doesn't do the right thing, and we have an adult who does do the right thing. And it's one of those things again where it may not be the person you expect. Like sometimes you need benevolent strangers to come to your rescue and just see like this is clear. This is a black and white thing. Like this person needs help and I can be there and I can be that supportive person. So I will say we have a character that repeatedly is faced with that. Like you can just walk away. You can walk away. Like you probably should walk away. And they just don't. And I think we need more people like that who do the right thing when there's an opportunity to do so.
You know, I think that's a beautiful thing like to point out is in a society of apathy, a lot of times we are no longer community oriented. We are very single-minded, individual oriented.
Totally.
And to tell another person, oh, do what's best for you, or what you can walk away, you don't have to deal with this, you're just adding more stress to your life, um, is incredibly horrible and ridiculous on multiple levels because we as humans are social creatures and we're supposed to help. We're
Yeah.
supposed to help each other. Like, not only does it build community in general and a supportive network, like helps that lonely, isolated feeling that we get, but being able to help someone, being able to be reliable for someone else even when you do need help for yourself, is so amazing for your psyche. It's awesome to see that you can do something and have such an impact in someone else's life for a positive change. And eventually they may be able to help you, or they could just help you by you helping them. Um, I think for me, what the most healing part of, recovering from a lot of my trauma is being that reliable person for other people. I think that is definitely what has saved my life time and time again. of, not just thinking, oh, other people need me, but that I have the capacity to be there for other people when they need me. If they don't need me, that doesn't decrease my value in any way. It doesn't increase my value anyway if they need me immediately and I show up for them. My value is inherent, but my ability and discernment to, make sure to take time for myself when I need it and also show up for others when they need it the most, even if I'm not at 100%, I think is what makes a person have more confidence and self-assuredness, which I think heals trauma tremendously.
So
Um, I think it's really encouraging that is this your second film that you're doing?
first, it's
This
first,
is
it's
your
big film.
debut film?
Oh,
Your
I hate it.
debut film, Kelsey.
No
Oh
pressure
my
on it.
your debut film as a director is something so monumental and transformative and really universal because we all go through trauma. We all go through abusive situations. It may be a minor T or a major T, but there is trauma in everyone's lives.
Like that.
Like this is amazing. I am so encouraged by you and your eloquence and ability to, give like little sneaks and teasers, but not give everything away. I'm excited to see this movie, and I'm sure the audience is as well. What is one thing that you hope your audience walks away with feeling after seeing this film?
I really hope that there is a sense of compassion for other people. Like that is the goal. We live in such a divided world right now. And like not to make it political, but I grew up in a very conservative small town and I have so many friends and I'm like, God, it's hard to talk to you now. And I would like to be able to. And I think the world would be a better place if we could all sit back and just try to have a little bit more compassion for other people. And I think right now we live in a time where you want to stand up for what you believe and we want to draw lines in the sand. And it's hard to know what lines must be drawn in the sand and which ones it's like, look, let's have a conversation about this. But I hope people walk away with a sense of compassion for other people. And it's so funny. Again, I'm like, Grace, are you sure you didn't see the film? Because one key line we have is if you can't help yourself, help somebody else. And that's really the mantra of our well, spoilers, our mantra of the woodsman. Like he's trapped in his cabin, he's trapped in his life, he's trapped and he's just trying to find a way to get out. And he does that through helping other people.
And that's kind of what I had to do. A little bit about like my story in particular. I grew up in a pretty abusive home. Like my mom was my main abuser, and I really had Cinderella syndrome.
Uh,
And did everything for her, like everything, and was third parent and, defended her. And what really broke me completely was when I needed her the most. My dad had just died, and she said to me, and I'm never gonna forget it, is she was like, "This is my first Christmas without my husband. Can you just do what I say?" And I said, "This is our first Christmas without our dad. Can you just be our mother?"
Woof.
And it it broke me on so many levels to, recognize that no, she couldn't. And she never really was our mom. She never was a mom that we needed. She never was nurturing. She did it all for herself and her own gratification and not to raise kids and make healthy humans make healthy choices. And something that really um, made me the person that I am today is my youngest brother telling me that I was the most resilient person he knew. And he made, I think it's called an anagram, like where you have a word that describes each letter of
Mhm.
a person's name. I think that's what it's called, but I may be wrong. But for R, he put resilient, and he added a bunch of pictures of my face, and he was like, yeah, I had to do it for a school project. And I was like, but why did you pick me out of like all of the family members? Like dad just died. Why you could have picked dad? Why did you pick me? And he didn't give me an answer. He just looked at me as little teenage boys do and just walked away. But that meant everything to me because that became part of my soul. It wasn't that I had to be resilient, it was that I was resilient.
Yeah.
It's that it was just me. That even though we were going through the hardest times in our lives, I still showed up for my brothers and made sure that they knew I still loved them, even if I didn't agree with them on certain things. That love that I had for my brothers was still there, would always be there, was always available to them. And I was still going to persist and make sure to right the wrongs of our mom and make sure to do everything in my power, not for myself, but to ensure that they were taken care of. And it's something that I still carry on today. Like, I'm not having a great day today, Kelsey. I'm just to tell you right now, I'm on my period. Girl, I am sad. I am tired. I'm like suffering real bad. But I'm still here. I'm still present. And I am still going to do the best with my situation, give it my, whatever's in the tank. And then I'm going to take a nap and give myself rest so that I can recuperate and still be resilient. You're not like resilience isn't just pulling 100% every single time. It's enduring even when the hardest things come. Like a lot of things that trauma survivors think has broken them or has caused irreconcilable damages has not made them stronger, but has proven their resilience, has proven their capacity to endure and carry on. And I think that's a really big part of healing is acknowledging what you've gone through and acknowledging where you are right now and the steps that it's going to take to better yourself, better your situation, and overcome.
Yeah.
A lot of times we say that grief is not something you get over because it'll still be in you, but it is something that becomes easier to hold over time. And I'm really excited for this film. I'm excited.
I think you're gonna like it. I think there's a
Oh,
lot
hell yeah.
for you. I have to ask, can I turn it on you? Is there,
Yeah.
is there room at all in your heart for compassion for your mom? Maybe.
Oh, I have so much compassion for her. I don't think she should have ever been a mom. She had so many dreams. She wanted to be a director of photography. I think she's probably living a much better life now that I'm not in her life. I think she, um, did what she could when she could, and that was her best, but it wasn't because I'm not even telling you the full scope because out of respect for her anyway. But she has abused me and my brothers tremendously and continues to this day. And I do have a lot of compassion, and all of my friends will tell you that I have a lot of compassion for her.
I
But
figure.
but there's a difference between having compassion, empathy, and understanding, and being able to be like, this person really did hurt me, and I'm not going to condone what they've done. I've gone through years and years of therapy of having to remove my empathy cap for her
Mm,
because I rationalized her decisions for so long that it and lived in her delusion for so long that it destroyed me, that there was no room for me to exist, that there was no room for me to be myself. There was no room for me to identify how I could. I wasn't allowed to be non binary. I wasn't allowed to be bisexual. I wasn't allowed to not believe in Jesus. I wasn't allowed to pursue the things that I wanted to learn about. I had to do everything that she did. I wasn't allowed to apply to other colleges than the college that she went to. And when
Whoa.
I didn't come home one weekend to clean her house, she took away my tuition. She took herself off of my FAFSA paperwork, and I almost got kicked out of school. So that's just like a snippet of the levels of control.
Yeah.
As an adult now, she has no control over me. I'm 25 years old, and I can finally say with certainty, how she views me has no bearing, has no weight. It took a long time, a lot of sobbing, and a lot of sadness to get through that. Get through that because I didn't just lose my dad in 2020, who I loved very much. He was a very flawed man, but I loved him very much. Um, she just decided to not be a mom anymore. And honestly, that was probably the best decision that she could have made. She's like prevented a lot more hurt because she just relinquished control. And
Mm.
I'm very grateful for that, you I think a lot of times people with parent wounds, hate their parents for a long time. I don't hate her. I don't really love her either. I comprehend why she did the things that she did, but I don't condone them. You know what I mean? I would never do the same thing in her shoes ever, ever, ever. She went through a significant lot of trauma, very significant. But that doesn't, in my mind, rationalize her decisions. You know what I mean? Does that make sense?
That makes total sense. I'm glad that you have worked through it. I figured you're not the kind of person who's like, yeah, no compassion. Nah.
No, I have lots of compassion.
Complicated.
Oh, it's super complicated. I have lots of compassion and empathy for her, but there comes a point where to continually have compassion for someone else who has abused you your whole life is now abusing you. Now you're abusing yourself because for her reality and my reality to be in the same universe that can't exist because her reality is she was the best mother ever. My reality is that she wasn't there for me when I needed her the most.
Yeah.
In fact, I was there for her, but she couldn't be a mom for me. I mean, there's a lot to unpack there. I have, for those that are listening, I do have other videos that go into depth on the abuse that I endured with my mom. And you guys can check those out if you want. But, there's so many different levels of abuse. It isn't just domestic violence and domestic violence encompasses a lot. I wanted to ask you this question because you did a lot of, research with these organizations. Did you learn about how domestic abuse encompasses so many different aspects?
You know, we did it. I'm not gonna lie, like we were pretty specific on grooming is our main subject matter. So it was pretty much a focus on that from the beginning. I do understand how broad it is, but like from an expertise thing, like that is not my expertise.
And that's perfect that you have a focus, you have a drive because it can get super muddy. It can like if you focus on too many aspects of one
Yeah.
thing, it can get like really crowded and your story can lose the plot, so to speak.
Yeah, quite literally. And I'm like, again, not an expert, but I do think that power is such like a through line for all kinds of abuse. And I'm really drawn to power imbalances. And yeah, and how we engage in those circles that go round and round and round where we allow someone to have power over us. So I'm glad to hear that you've gotten through the power your mother held over you. That's impressive.
Thank you. I appreciate it. I want to ask you this question because I like to ask a lot of my guests this question. What do you think of the saying, I transmute my pain into purpose?
I saw that in your notes. It's like, I love that. I love that. It definitely, it resonates with me. I don't know that from an intellectual standpoint, I would have said that or articulated it that way. But I do think, as you said, the capital T, lowercase t, like I had some lowercase t trauma, and it doesn't it doesn't feel like I'm working through that as an adult. But when I start to look at the body of work that I've created, I'm like, oh yeah, every piece of this has like a little bit of truth from here or there, other people's truths as well. But for sure, I think my purpose is to tell stories and to tell films and try to figure out how to empathize and find compassion for other people. And I think a lot of that stems from being a child and feeling kind of left to the side and being an observer. And I feel like I'm always trying to justify why people, like the pirates, why the pirates do what they do. That's my purpose, I feel. So I love that quote. Where did that come from?
That actually came from my grandmother.
Ah, whoa.
Mhm. So my mom's mom, my grandmother, which she watches all the podcasts, hi grandma. She would tell me all the time about the abusive situation that she grew up in and how the generational cycle of abuse, she hoped that it would end with me and my brothers because
Yeah.
she recognized like that our mom abused us. And it took her a very long time to comprehend it. Like it was very, very hard for her to recognize how it happened and to reckon with herself and the ways that she raised my mom or the ways that my mom was just inherently herself and um she told me she was so proud that I transmuted my pain into purpose.
Wow.
And she was so proud that I didn't stay silent because she was groomed by her own dad. She was sexually abused by her own dad. And nothing like that happened to me growing up. But she stayed quiet and she stayed silent. And when she tried to speak out about it years and years later with her sister said, no, that didn't happen. That didn't happen. You're lying. That didn't happen.
Ooh.
And it just shut her down even more. And she was very proud that um, again, I was so resilient and able to speak out and also able to platform other people who needed to speak out as well, who use my podcast as a way to transmute their pain into purpose and work through their own trauma. The whole reason why it's called Trauma Dump is anything is available to talk about here. Like, will we get age restricted by YouTube or Spotify? Probably. I don't care. I'm there. This podcast is not monetized. I'm not making money from this podcast. We provide free resources for people because a lot of times people don't understand what they're going through is trauma. They rationalize it until they see something else or until they hear someone who went through something similar say, this is trauma. What I went through hurt me. And
Yeah.
this is what I did to start to work through my pain. Because again, working through your pain, it's not a linear process. It's not point A to point B. You may have C, D, E, F, G. You may go back to A again and have to go through it. It's like a roller coaster. You've hit
Yeah.
those rise, those peaks. You're just you just have to keep going and stay on the ride and not jump off.
Yeah.
It's important that survivors recognize that they can get to a point where their pain can help someone else, can not only like help them heal, but feel less alone. Because for me, that's the whole point. Community. That's the whole point for us to understand one another, not only be able to connect and share and grow, but build up each other, especially when we're feeling down. Because whole reason why I started this podcast. I felt so devastatingly alone that I started a Discord server because I knew there would be other people that were going through trauma, and I called it trauma dumping. And I started that Discord server because I knew there would be other people who were going through trauma but didn't know how to talk about it and felt like they were burdening other people. So I was like, okay, how do we talk about trauma in a healthy way that doesn't burden other people, that is mutual? It's a mutual exchange. And how do we come to the other side where it's not just us talking shit and because misery loves company, not just talking shit and like being angry, but actually having like some sort of resolution or some sort of button to put on the end of it, like how you have like a therapy session. I used a lot of the things that I learned in therapy with this podcast so that I could help other people because that's how I transmuted my pain into purpose. Because when I was super alone, couldn't afford therapy, was homeless because of my mother, couldn't do anything. I had a phone, I had Discord, made a Discord server, and there were anonymous people on there who said, I'm sorry, Grace, that sucks what you went through. The way she treated you, that wasn't okay. And that helped. That got me out of that delusion of, I deserve this treatment. She says I deserve it, so I deserve it. Until you see something else, you are still stuck. You're still
Right.
trapped. And
Yeah.
so the podcast purpose is to identify trauma, how we can help heal ourselves and others, because trauma is not who you are, it's what you go through.
Yeah, I love that. I also think sharing is the best way to make people not feel alone. I love that you do the anonymous ones too, because there's so much shame. I think especially in sexual abuse, yeah, the shame traps you inside yourself. And I love the conversations I've had after the film when people come up and say, this brought up a lot of feelings that I've buried for a long time. And even a few of them have gone on to actually enact change. And that's a scary thing to bring this up after that much time. Like, as you have done in your own family, it's like, I'm done. I'm not going to do this anymore. I'm not going to participate in this illusion, your reality. And I think it's important for people to know that they're not alone in doing that. They're not the first person to do it, and they won't be the last.
Exactly. So how can we support you for other than watching the film, which people go watch the film, duh.
Yeah.
But where can we find you on social media so we can follow your career? Do you have any projects that you're working on outside of To Kill a Wolf? Are there any more things?
Oh,
Can I audition? Like,
always. Oh, looking for a 12-year-old boy. How do you feel about that? You think you can pull that off?
I mean, sure. I'm sure I could put on a suit and shrink just a little bit.
Anything's possible with the right makeup. Look at the penguin. Like, yes, I mean, I'm always working on new projects. I think there's been some crushing reality out of making this one. It's just been a long process and very hard, and we still haven't sold the film. If you know anyone who's buying films, no, just in all seriousness, like, I want to continue creating things, and I feel like I've learned a lot in this process about what kind of stories I want to tell. Like shame is definitely something that I will continue to look at, and imbalance in power dynamics and abuse. Those things always are circling in my mind, and perspective is really important to me, showing different sides of the story. So the next script I have is it's kind of pulling from Greek mythology a little bit. Again, like I can't kick the adaptation thing, but the idea of Pandora's box. And we have this little boy who is questioning his sexuality. He moves to a new school. He's not having a good time. He ends up starting a war with this very oppressive teacher. And it goes down a very, very dark path, as this film does. But ultimately, a positive message at the end of it. So that's the next thing I'm working on. Um, yeah, while I shepherd this one out into the world. But I hope people come see it in theaters. I think it's pretty unusual that a film of this scale, like this was a very, very small project. It's pretty amazing that it is going to be in theaters for people to see. It's limited, so you kind of got to track it down. You can find it on our website, tokillawolf.com. But otherwise, it'll be available online sometime in September. And we hope streaming free at some point next year. Maybe. Who knows?
I really hope like a streaming platform like Netflix picks it up because um that would be amazing. And you never know, like with timing on these projects, it may take a couple years and it may blow up, you know, in
You
a
never
couple
know.
years.
Yeah.
You really never know. But I think that's also super encouraging. Do you have any social medias that you'd like to plug?
Yeah, this might say a lot about my social media presence, but I have Kelsey Taylor has no Insta is my Instagram. I do have it. I try not to spend too much time on it. I think we're all aware of how dangerous it can be for mental health, and it's just better for me to not engage too much. At the same time, I love connecting with people. So if you send me a message, I'll get back to you. It just may take a little while. And I'm pretending not to be on TikTok as well, just to monitor the film. So don't even try there. But really, yeah, Kelsey Taylor has no Insta. You can find me there.
Do you have any resources that you personally recommend?
So as far as like getting actual help, if you would have been abused, like Rain is great. They're kind of the go-to for everybody. Our partners, Supriya is amazing. Enough Abuse specifically deals with education. Supriya has really interesting groups that they will do where they will bring people in and you will spend 4 days very intensely working with other people as a group, which I think is really, really cool. We had our event yesterday and a number of people chimed in the chat saying, Supriya saved my life. I'm like, that's pretty powerful. Um, and then for me, like I do think art is a great way to interact with subject matter that's hard. You may not be ready for therapy. You may just want to hear someone else's story. And so for that, like I think there's some great documentaries. Keep This Between Us is a really interesting one about inappropriate relationships in schools between teachers. And I hate how much this happens. Being Lolita is another memoir that I think is really powerful and frustrating, and it has some overlap with this film as well. And then there's a really cool play called How I Learned to Drive, which is heartbreaking. I've listened to it a couple times and it gets me hard. Yeah, you can get that from the library and listen to it, or you can, read the script. Like, what is a script for a play called? What's wrong with me?
The script.
Is a script? I'm like, surely that can't be right.
Yeah, it's a script. I have my BA in theater.
Okay, good.
It's a script. It's just a script. It's the same thing. But yeah, the for those that are listening, the National Domestic Violence Hotline is 1-800-799-SAFE. Or you can text START to 88788. RAIN, which is the Rape, Abuse, and Incest National Network. You can go to rain.org. That is RAINN.org. And you can call 1-800-656-HOPE. We have lots of different therapy resources, like how to find a trauma-informed therapy practitioner near you in our descriptions. And then we also have our Discord, which is anonymous. It's free. You can connect over there and talk about literally anything other than trying to sell tickets to random things, because bots have been trying to sell tickets to random things.
Uh,
Get off our Discord. We don't want you there, random bot. What the heck? Anyway, um, I'm so encouraged by your ability to tell such a nuanced story. I can't wait for it to come out in theaters. By the time this episode airs, it will be out. If To Kill a Wolf speaks to something inside you, whether you're a survivor, an advocate, or simply someone who believes in the power of storytelling to heal, please know that you are not alone. You can find links to resources in the show notes. And if you're available and able to go see this powerful film in theaters on August 1st, please go see it and share it with someone who needs it. Remember, everybody, you are capable of a fulfilling life in spite of your circumstances and your trauma. May you rise again from the ashes and be filled with peace, hope, love, joy, and understanding. And I will see you guys in the next episode. Say goodbye, Kelsey.
Goodbye. Thanks for having me, Grace. Thanks for rallying for this.
Oh, hell yeah. I always got to rally for the podcast. Let's go.